the whole world shaking, and you feel your heart is breaking. Take my hand, no hesitating. Oh, when you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Fearless, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Can you see the sun is shining like a new hope? Feel it rising, coming over the horizon. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Fearless, we're taking the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping.
Good evening. It's Saturday. We're live. We're definitely live. It's just a little tad after 7 p.m. So if you want to leave comments, I would try to reply to them. But we definitely live right now. And I just want to take a second to check my sound. You know, there's always like these last minute things you have to do. There's a lot involved with doing a video podcast. And again, I try to make it more different levels, not just speaking, but it's this videos in it, and I try to make it as entertaining as possible. So I want to make sure that, well, anyway, my name, okay, we're live over here. Okay, it seems like the sound is working. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so I'm Chris Garguilo of Realty Connect LLC. Um, I'm a licensed referral specialist. I also have an associate broker's license. And actually, this month I'm renewing my license. I have to take continuing education. So I still have an active license. And this is my weekly video podcast. And it actually gets uploaded to Spotify as well. So you can listen to me while you're working out, when you're running, when you're just relaxing in bed, anytime. You can listen to me, or also visually look at me because I load the video as well. All right, and we talk about what's current in the real estate market, in the industry. We will have issues also with mortgages, and we'll talk about what's going on in the mortgage industry and how to apply for a mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and I try to make it fun and interactive. Now, with Realty Connect, you could contact me and we could discuss. I could consult you. I have 30 plus years in the real estate industry in 2 different states. I also have an MBA. I I have I'm just reading the messages that are coming up on my screen. I have I'm also a licensed real estate instructor when it comes to the salesperson exam, and these are the different things that I'm involved with. Um, so I have a lot of experience in the real estate industry, and so if you are looking for a home or to list a home anywhere within the United States of America, I can help you. I can consult you. Then we'll put your information in my website. Let me actually get my website up here. That'd be a good idea to do. Okay, hold on. I'll get that information up here for you right now. Ready to buy or list real estate with Mr. G.us. And you go there, you enter your information, what you're looking for, and then you will be introduced to up to three, okay, top agents in that location. So it could be Hampton Roads, or it could be San Diego, California. It could be Washington, D.C. It could be Arlington, Virginia. It could be Scranton, Pennsylvania. Okay. Um, I could help you buy or list a property there. Okay. And there's no additional cost to you, which is a nice thing. You're not paying for my services. I get paid at the end, at the closing. And there's no additional fees. They're not going to tag on another point or percentage because you came through Chris Garguilo of Real Estate with Mr. G. Okay? So why don't I show you a nice little video that kind of puts it in a nutshell? Okay, so I think that puts a nice little nutshell. I have actually three videos I use to Roll to Connect, and I'm kind of doing them in a circular fashion, so you just don't get tired of just seeing one all the time. Okay, all right. So, what is our topic question for today? What are we going to discuss? So we have actually Francesca from Philadelphia to give us today's topic question.
Hi, Mr. G. Loving your weekly podcasts. I am just curious because I want to purchase a home in 2024. Is there any chance we are heading to a housing crash? Any of your expert advice will be most appreciated. I watch weekly with my family and friends. Please keep it going strong in the new year. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Francesca, for that question. And that's a good question. A lot of people, well, to be honest with you, the economy is doing very, very strong. We really had fears of a recession, of people out of work, but that's not happening. Job growth is strong. Uh, People are purchasing. I mean, and that's the problem. A lot of people are purchasing, which at times will push up prices. So we're trying to, the Feds are trying to get that down. But besides the inflation, we're doing good. The stock market is doing great. Um, you know, the jobs are being created. There's very little unemployment. So these are all good things. So the likelihood of having a housing crash is really remote right now. I mean, if it would happen, it would have to be more further in the future. And we don't want that. We don't want a housing crash, okay? So let's look at today's article, which is also on my blog site, real estate with Mr. G blog. Okay. So why aren't we in headed for a housing crash? So a lot of people are concerned, if you're holding out hope that the housing market is going to crash and bring home prices back down. Here's a look at what data shows. And a spoiler alert, that's not in the cards. Instead, experts say home prices are going to keep going up. So here's the first one. And we're actually comparing it to the housing crash of 2008. I actually moved down to Virginia in 2007 in the summertime, and we were just about entering that crash, that the burst of the real estate bubble. So I actually entered real estate down here full time at the most horrific time. So how is it different from back then? Well, one thing, it's harder to get a loan right now, and that's actually a good thing. All right. So back in 2008 and prior to that, I worked with some mortgage brokers back in Brooklyn. It was basically really easy to get a mortgage. I don't want to say everybody got a mortgage, but even if you had B or C credit, there were what they called B and C, and there might have been D lenders as well who would give you a mortgage, but they had much higher rates. And a lot of them had it built into their mortgage documents that you miss two payments, we own the property. You really had to be very, very careful. All right. So a lot of people who got those mortgage loans were not really or truly eligible for it. And the other thing, and it's not discussed in this article, is that what was really big was the adjustable rate mortgages. So there was a prime example, and again, it was with a librarian in New York City. I believe it was the Bronx. And she bought a beautiful home that was well above her means. All right. So at using an adjustable rate mortgage, and basically the beginning of the loan, the mortgage rate is lower than the average 30-year fixed rate. So let's say at that time, I'm just giving an example, the mortgage rate was 8%. They may start out the mortgage at 2%, but it goes up in increments, right? And it doesn't happen all at once. It might be over a 10-year spread. And they'll put a cap on it. They say, well, it can't go higher than 10%. So at the very beginning of that loan, that buyer was able to afford that house. But once it started to creep up, and then even went past the fixed rate, she ran into trouble, and she could no longer afford it. So they had to foreclose on the house. And there were many examples of that. It wasn't just that one. There was lots of that. People buying above their means. Now, there's two sides of the story, and then you have, one say, well, they should have read the paperwork. They should be more aware. But, then a lot of mortgage brokers should have said, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to be able to afford this loan right unless you get a big increase in your income. And they didn't. I mean, they just saw the bucks, right? And say, well, I'll close on this loan and I'll get my commission on it, but not thinking that this person in a few years will not be able to afford that house. So we went back to adjustable rate mortgages and they're becoming bigger again or more, in desire because of our high interest rates, high compared to what they were a few years ago when we were at, below 3%. And I just checked today, they're over 7% now. Big difference. That's like 5 points. So the adjustable rate mortgages are coming back again. But the biggest difference, let's say, it'll start at 3 and they'll end up at 10. They're going to see if you're able to still pay that mortgage when it goes to 10% with today's salary. Not what you might get in 5 years, but what you're getting right now. And if you could pay that mortgage at 10%, even though you're not paying 10% now, most likely we will approve you with that mortgage. So that's how it's different. And that's one big example. But here, in general, this article is saying how home buyers face increasingly higher standards for mortgage companies. And they always have graphs. And this graph below from the Mortgage Bankers Association, MBA, to show the difference. The lower the number, the harder it is to get a mortgage. The higher the number, the easier it is. So we move down here. And we see in 2006, it was very easy to get a mortgage, right? And then we had that crash, and then they began tightening it up in 2008, came back down a little bit more again, all right? We had a little uplift, all right? But I guess, again, to avoid any type of possible foreclosures, and probably around this period is when they were maybe thinking we will go into a recession. They got tighter again. And so in January 2024, it's really tight there. All right. So, but again, it's a good thing. And what I tell my buyers, when you're ready to, you decide you want to buy a house, don't wait until you find that perfect house. Like you'll say to your agent, and most agents won't do this anyway, but you say, all right, let's look at some homes. Once I see a house, once I see that house, I'll speak to a mortgage broker or a mortgage loan officer and see, about getting a mortgage. Bad move. And in my experience, I found out that it's the people who think their credit is great and they won't have a trouble getting a mortgage are the ones that are not able to get it. And the ones who say, well, I'm not so sure, we're nervous about that credit, right? They're very, very cautious. They're the ones that usually have the great credit, and they're pre-approved right away. And they'll be, like, let's say you're getting a lot of offers in the mail, for credit cards, but they're more of the high interest rates, and sometimes they'll say this is for getting your credit back in order. And people say, oh, I'm getting a lot of these in the mail. But it depends, who's sending it to you. If it's Citibank or Bank of America and they're saying you're pre-approved, that's pretty good. But if it's some unknown bank, and I'm not putting them down, by the way, because a lot of them will, as long as you're making timely payments, they'll report it to the credit reporting agencies. And then when they feel more comfortable with you, they'll increase your credit line. So I'm not knocking it, but it doesn't mean that you're ready to be approved for a home. So it's very important to get that pre-approval first, because you might have that oops there, and you're not at that point where the bank could give you a mortgage, and you might need 3 months to get your credit up to par. And your mortgage loan officer will say, well, if you pay down this line by this much, if you have some extra cash stashed away, pay that down and it'll raise your credit by this amount of points. They have all these software programs for this. And they'll do it for you, and they won't charge you. They used to charge you for that. And then it became so common. Like a lot of people pay for getting their credit report and credit monitoring, but a lot of the credit cards or the banks are actually now monitoring your credit. And they'll let you know, oh, this month your score went up. So a lot of companies are doing this. And that mortgage loan officer will do it for you with hopes, that, hey, you help me. You're going to be my mortgage loan officer when I buy my house, and it's going to go through you. So they do it as a courtesy that you will be their client and a long-term client and give them referrals. So again, don't wait for that last minute. Even if you think your credit is great, do it. Even if you think your credit is bad, do it. Get that pre-qualification. It's good for 3 months. And if it takes longer than 3 months to get a house, they'll redo it. They'll check your credit again. And that's usually a soft hit. When you're looking for a mortgage, that's actually, to the finance world, that's good debt when you're buying a house. If you're taking out 5 credit cards, they don't see that as good debt. I mean, it's helpful to have the logs, but the cards. But when you're buying a house, you're saying, oh, okay, you're buying a house, you're building up equity, you're becoming a homeowner. That's more positive. All right, I talked a lot on this. So let's go to the. Okay, we did that. So actually, there are fewer homes for sale today on the market. In 2008, we had a lot of homes on the market, and they were at a reduced price. Because a lot of stuff was going on. The economy was going down. The automotive industry was going downhill. So because there were too many homes for sale during the housing crisis, many of which were short sales and foreclosures, that caused home prices to fall dramatically. But today there's an inventory shortage, not a surplus. So we see with this graph, throughout the years, again, in those years of the bubble burst, 2007, 2008, okay, 2009, 2010, we see a lot of homes on the market. And unfortunately, a lot of them are on the market because the owners could no longer afford them. And then they started doing something called short sales, which is actually like a topic for a whole other podcast. But basically, they were trying to sell their house before they went into foreclosure, even though they already missed some payments. So we had a lot of that. Actually, in the last few years, I really haven't heard of any short sales. Okay, there might be some few out there, but it's not the number that it was going back, about 10 years or so, maybe a little more than 10 years. So today's unsold inventory sits at just 3 months supply. That's compared to a peak of 10.4 months supply back in 2008. That's how long homes were staying on the market. Okay, because of the bad economy, people couldn't afford the homes, and it was a rough time. And I like this the best here. People are not using. This is the third one. Are not using their homes as ATMs like they did in 2000. And basically what they were using, they were taking out home equity loans, right? So, if you pay down your house, let's say, to make it simple, it was $200,000. Your balance at this point is $150,000. So you have $50,000 worth of equity. The bank might say, okay, we could give you $30,000. And you could use it to make home repairs. You could pay down your credit cards, etc., etc. But the point is, those amounts in those credit cards that usually your statement will show you, well, if you pay, this card down at the minimum month, it'll be paid down in 5 years or whatever. But once you put it into a home equity loan, now you're paying it out for a lot more years. All right, depending on if you did it for 15 years, if you did it for 30 years. Now you're paying down that card and you're not wiping it out for another at least 15 years. So back in the lead up to the housing crash, many home owners were borrowing against the equity in their homes to finance new cars, boats, and vacations. So when prices started to fall as inventory rose too high, many of these homeowners found themselves underwater. So they began to owe more money than what the house was actually worth. So let's say again they bought the house at $200,000. They got down the balance $150,000. They take out a $30,000 line of credit, so now they're $180,000 again. But the value of the homes, because of the economy, because of all the foreclosures, let's say it goes down to $140,000. Well, now they're $40,000 in the hole. Okay. So to be honest with you, I mean, unless it's the same thing, and I'm going a little off topic. It's the same thing with when you get the mortgages, the seniors take out, which I'm a senior too. You take out the reverse mortgage, okay, and that should be like a very last step or very last option if you're having financial difficulties. That's what you do at the end. When you're saying, "Well, I did everything, and I need some additional income, whether it's just to live, all right, to get by." But they take out a lot of money from the house. The bank will keep a lot of equity. So, using your house to finance cars, usually when you buy a car, you take out a 5-year loan, 6-year loan, but now it's turning into 15 years or so. But today's homeowners are a lot more cautious. Even though prices have skyrocketed in the past few years, homeowners aren't tapping into their equity the way they did back then. Black Knight reports that tappable equity, or the amount of equity available for homeowners to access before hitting a maximum of 80% loan to value ratio, or LTV, has actually reached an all-time high. So, amount of equity available for homeowners to access before hitting a maximum of 8% combined LTV in trillions. So that means, as whole, the homeowners have actually more equity than ever before, and that's great. Homeowners are in such a much stronger position today than in the early 2000s. The same report from Black Knights goes on to explain only 1% of mortgage holders, 502,000, ended the year underwater, down from 1.5% at this time last year. And since homeowners are on more solid footing today, they will have options to avoid foreclosures. That limits the numbers of distressed properties coming onto the market. And without a flood of inventory, prices won't come tumbling down. All right? I'm going to show you, I'm going to close this out. Okay. And I'm going to show you this chart that I made. The housing crash ahead, I should actually put this on my blog. But here you have no housing crash ahead. So here, I'm not so sure if you're seeing me twirling this thing around here. But number one, continuous demand for housing mitigates the risk of a market crash. We have tight inventory levels now. I'm looking at two. Lower housing supply compared to demand supports stable prices. Improved lending standards. Stricter mortgage requirements prevent the proliferation of bad loans. Four, low unemployment rate. A strong job market features more people that can afford homes. Okay? And to sum it up even more, I'm going to show you a nice little video. Okay? So that sort of summarized everything. I want to show you, it took me a while to get, I had problems with the software today. I wasn't even sure I was able to broadcast tonight, but they fixed everything, the developer. But what I'm also going to show you, when will the housing market crash? And it says, although the semi-frozen housing market is unhealthy due to lack of supply and low affordability levels, okay, both mortgage rates are high and home prices high, the chances for a crash currently remain low. And I like to keep these things under 30 minutes, but this article is from the U.S. News and Reports, and it just came out a few days ago. Gives you all the reasons, which basically what I went over in the PDF file. So, I mean, that's additional evidence or additional a source of showing that we're not really looking at a market crash, a housing market crash in the near future. Okay, so that's a good thing. Now, very quickly on my, let's close this out. I like this little circle for me here. That's pretty, right? Don't forget, on my blog site, we have real estate with Mr. G.blog/resource-materials. And we have both the winter buying guide, things to consider when buying a home. And actually, this month, probably towards the end of the month, I'll be getting the spring 2024 edition of Buying a Home and Selling Your House. Okay, but right now it's still the winter ones. And you can go to my blog site and download it for free. Okay? All right. Now, I'm hearing from Isabella that we might have. I think this special celebrity had an audience we had a couple of weeks ago, but they decided to come back, and I think that's nice. So, what's going on, Isabella?
Hey, Mr. G, great news. We have a celebrity in the audience. Originally from Moscow, Russia, He traveled all through the city with his bicycle to buy food for his 14 children, even in the blizzards, because he was extremely poor. After receiving many care packages from the Waltons in Virginia, he decided to move to America with his family and earn money by displaying his excellent bike riding skills. He has performed on Ed Sullivan's and Joe Franklin's shows. He ended up with the Barnum and Bailey Circus. Ladies and gentlemen, Casimir the bicyclist.
Thank you, Casimir, for coming back. All right. Okay, so that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. And was a warm day today. It turned out really, really nice. I believe we're heading towards spring, and the cold weather should be soon over. So, in the meantime, be nice to each other, be kind to each other, and always remember. I'm getting my. Always remember, the greatest power we have is to love, and the greatest gift each other. And I'll see you next week.